Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to create this wolf with a nighttime background and some trees. So let's go ahead and get started. First I need to make a mask for my paper. So I'm going to use this 4-inch masking tape and I'm going to cut it out. The stamps I'll be using today are the Fairy Hugs trees. I'll list them in the description box below because I have this sped up in interest of time and I can never catch it fast enough to read the names. Anyway, I'm cutting out this piece of masking tape. It's called mint tape, so that I can make a mask for my moon. And I'm just going to peel that off of there. Try not to wreck it because I might need it later. But I'm going to be also using that moon piece a little bit later. So I'm going to lay this right here on my paper so I have an open spot here to color in the moon. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the Elements ink. It's from Lavinia Stamps to color in the moon. And then I'm just going to pull my masking paper off. So what I need to do next is go ahead and take the other part of this mask that I made. And you honestly can make a mask out of anything, but this stuff works pretty good. It's I use something different usually, but I wanted to test this out. And I'm going to be making also something for our wolf to stand on. And so I'm going to be using this stone wall stamp. I'm going to grab my stamping platform and I'm going to lay my paper down. And I'm going to stamp this out, and I'm going to stamp it in 2 parts. It's really cool because it's interlocking. So, you know, I need to be thinking about where my wolf's going to be standing, and I want him highlighted by the moon. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my stone wall with the Ranger Jet Black Archival because I'm not sure how I want to color this yet. So I want to be sure that I get a good ink that that I could like watercolor on. And I'm going to go ahead and give that a second stamping because it wasn't quite dark enough. And there we go. I'm loving it. I'm going to just wipe my stamp off here so I can move it over so you can see how they interlock the edges. And it's seamless from there. It's really cool. I love this stamp. And it's okay if it's hanging off the edge. Doesn't bother me a bit. So I'm just going to stamp up the part I need with that Jet Black Archival ink. Make sure I get it good and pressed down on the edge there. And there, I've got a perfect impression. You can't even see that there was that it's 2 stampings. I think they did a really phenomenal job with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover my wall with a mask as well. And I'm going to show you how I make my masks. So this is just transfer paper for my Cricut. And I'm going to go ahead and peel back and fight with one of the layers there. Now I'm going to stamp that stone wall onto that piece, onto the other piece. Just a simple stamping. And then I'm just going to take and cover it with that other piece that I took off. And so now it's not going to smear and it's really easy to cut out and you can get around tiny little nooks and crannies. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out just so you can see because I'm going to need 2 masks to cover the entire wall piece. I just love this technique for making masks. And I do a lot of, like when I first get a stamp, if it's going to be something I know I'll be masking, I'll make a mask for it right away. And these work multiple times and they store really well. And they, because they're plastic, they clean up nicely. So, yeah, definitely. And it's cheap. It's way cheaper than Masking Magic. I think I had this huge roll of it, cost me about $20. And I can make masks for years with it. And honestly, I have a Cricut, but I never use it. So, you know, I'm sitting there feeling bad, like that stuff, you know, I need to put it to use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay my masks down so that they match. And when you first use one, what you want to do is try and remember to kind of, I don't know, like press it against your clothing or something to get some of the tackiness off. I didn't do that with this one and it worked out just fine, but if you're going to be doing a very large area, I'm going to go ahead and protect that other part of my mask so I don't get dirt on it. And I'm going to go in and start with my sky, and I've got the Versafine Clair in Twilight, and I'll be also using Monarch. I'm going to start by going around the moon just with a circular motion, but again, it's a night sky, so I want to keep it nice and dark. There we go. Then I'll go in with the this is an Elements color. It's oh, I can't remember the name of the color, but it's a purple. Anyway, those are the only two elements I own. I like this ink because it's on a squishy ink pad. But I'm going to get that color in, and I do want it to look splotchy, because then next I'm going to go in with the Monarch and fill it in. So just it's got just a slight 2 different tones to it. Get it nice and dark around the edges and up around the wall. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull my mask off of my moon here very carefully. Nice bright moon. And I'm going to pull my little masks carefully off of my wall. Okay, and then I'm just going to go over the top to cover the top of that. Let me just put it away here and get the correct one. Oh, I guess I'm not going to go over the top of that, okay? But I do want to color in the stones. And I believe that I'm going to come in with the Versafine Clair in the Morning Mist for those, because I do want them to be gray. And I'm going to go ahead and take my little blending brush and just kind of roughly blend in the gray there. Not too much, because we've got the moon shining on it, and I'm keeping the darker portion towards the bottom. So doing it a little heavier towards the bottom and kind of leaving the lightness there around where the moon is. And I'm not worried about the very bottom part, because I'm going to be doing something else with that. So we kind of got just a little bit of, and then I'm going to go in with this Monarch and just not too heavy, just a little bit, just so that we have that cast of purple light on it. And then I'm going to set that aside and clean up my mess here. And you can see, as you know, you've seen me craft, I'm a messy crafter. I got stuff everywhere. So now I've got my colors the way I want it. I'm going to go ahead and stamp out my wolf. I'm going to decide where I want him. Make sure that his feet aren't funny. It's kind of hard to get them completely proper on that wall. Elizabeth has a trick, and I just didn't do it, where you basically don't stamp a certain portion of the feet. But we're just going to leave it. And decide on my positioning. I'm going to lay that down, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp him out again with the Jet Black Archival ink. I'm going to give it a little bit of pressure and let the ink sit on there for a minute to try and soak in. And then I'm going to give him a second layer. See if he comes out good enough. If not, I'll give him a third. Yep, he's going to need a third layer. Although he's good like that, you can see his fur and stuff. But I want him just a little bit darker. There we go. I'm liking that. So I'll go ahead and clean him off. Put him away. And I have made a mask for him as well. And I'm going to be using it. But first I want to grab my little trees here. And I'm going to, I think I'm going to lay my mask back down on my stone wall. so that the trees appear to be behind the wall instead of in front of it. And it's okay if it hangs off the edge there, I don't mind. And I want that tree just a little bit in the moonlight. And I'm going to go ahead and again with the, not the jet black archival, the black soot archival is what I'm using from Ranger. I like the blackness of it, if that makes sense. And I have multiple black inks, just multiples, and it's hit or miss which one I use depending on what I think I might do next. I thought I was going to watercolor on this one, but I changed my mind. Decided to just ink blend everything. And so now I need to go ahead and mask off my wolf as well. And because I want the tree behind him. I'm going to clean off my tree and decide on my next position. I'll go ahead and lay him right over the wolf. And over my masked wall. And stamp it down. It's pretty simple once you've cut out those masks. And again, the type of materials that I'm using for the mask makes it very easy to cut out the tiniest parts. So I've got my tree down, and there's a little space where the mask was, but that's okay because it kind of lights him up a little. So I'm going to take that on my stamping platform and just kind of clean up my mask so I don't get ink all over myself. And then just pull my mask back off carefully. Lay him back on their backing paper and get Mr. Wolf mask. And lay him on his backing paper. So there you've got some dimensional. So what I want to do is I want to do something with the bottom, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some foliage down. So kind of looks like he's maybe in a neighborhood howling at the moon. I'm going to go in with the Versafine Clair, and this one I think is, I forget which green one. One of the green ones. And I'm just going to go ahead and just start stamping down leaves. And I end up not really liking this after it's done. And that's why I end up cutting out some foliage from one of my die cutting dies. Because I just wasn't crazy about how that looked. It just, the color was wrong. I wasn't just not happy. And that's what happens when we stamp, is sometimes we have a good idea and then we try to put it to fruition and it just doesn't really work out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start edging this now and blending up that very bottom of the page here to kind of just, you know, make a ground, so to speak. And, you know, just bring in some more color. And I love this twilight color, and I'm going to go ahead and do the edges as well. So that that stone wall is really lit up by the moon. And from here, I could be done. But again, I just wasn't really crazy about the leaves. The color clashed. I maybe needed a lighter green, maybe should have done them in black. I'm not sure, but in the end, I decided I've got to do a little bit of stars here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Q-tip, I'm going to rub it in my Distress Oxide, and I'm just going to make little dots all over, just kind of twist them on. In just random places. And then I take the other end and I just kind of rub them in. So they just are kind of points of light. And then I'm going to take one of my Jelly Roll pens and just fill in the center with little dots. So those dots are basically lit up by those little points of light that we made. And I'm good with that. What I want to do is just add a little bit more purple in here. And I think this is where I kind of decided I didn't like my foliage. Just wanted to make it the scene a little bit darker. So again, I could leave it just like it is, but I'm gonna, first of all, I'm gonna trim it down to the 4 by 5 1/4. And I'll trim mostly from the bottom because I want to keep my top portion. And I'm going to take a Posca pen here and I'm going to do some highlighting. And just kind of, you know, as if the, you know, the moon was bright and really making the little wolf stand out. And I would have used my Jelly Roll pen, but I am having the worst luck with Jelly Roll pens, and sorry for my hair in the way there. So again, I'm just highlighting this side of the tree on each side, on each little branch that's coming out. You know, giving it as if it were being lit up by the moon. And then I'll do the other tree on the opposites, well, on the same side, towards the moon side. Very simple, just little lines. And suddenly those trees appear to be lit. And I'm gonna go ahead and get him highlighted a little. And I make a mistake there, which happens, and that's okay, because I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna go ahead and just highlight the parts that I believe would be lit up by the moon, including the top of the stone wall. And you really can't see the parts of them lit up on against the yellow part of the moon, but they're there. I'm going to go ahead and go in here and try and correct what I didn't like here and just put a bunch of yellow dots, but I still end up just not liking it. It's funny how you commit to something instead of saying forget it, start over, and you just go for it. So making those appear to be kind of lit and just adding a few yellow dots on each leaf, or most of the leaves. Yeah, still, I need to fix there, and I'm just using my black Posca pen to fix where I made a mistake with the white. Went too far or something like that. And then fill in right there. Pretty simple. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to actually put it down on a card base. And I'm trying to decide which color, and I decide to go with a light purple, just to kind of bring in the purple from the rest of the card. And I'm going to just go around the edges to cover any white with the twilight. And I do like to dab that off usually because it can be kind of wet and I don't want to smear and get it all over myself or my card. And I'm going to go ahead and just use my reptile adhesive, and I'm going to glue this panel down to the card base, to purple card base. And here we go. Yeah, I do like it against that lavender color. It just yeah, it's something different. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab actually a piece of paper, just regular cardstock, and I'm going to fill it in with the 2 shades of green, so I have something to cut my foliage out with. And then I'm just going to kind of wipe to kind of get it dry. I don't want that stuff all over my die cutting machine. And I know it looks weird, but you'll see when we get the leaves out. So I have this foliage set, and I'm just going to select a few of the different leaves from that, the leaf groupings. And I'm just going to lay them on here, you know, arrange them so that they're in the color range that works. And it's okay if that one overlaps. I'm perfectly fine with that. It does. I don't mind if it's two-toned. And I'm going to just go ahead and take one piece of tape and tape them all down and run it through my cutting machine. And that'd be I use the Vagabond too. I have a big shot too, but it's put away because there's just not room in this studio for everything. So once I get those die cut, I'm going to go ahead and just poke them out. And I don't use them whole. I cut them up. Some of them I use whole, but mostly I just use bits and pieces of them. And let me go ahead and just poke out real quickly the extra pieces. The other leaves didn't have any, just these. This ivy does. And I like the idea of ivy on a stone wall. It just works. It's what you expect to see. So I kind of try and decide on placement. And you see, I'm still not loving green on there. I'm going to commit to it because I already have. But I'm just going to try and think about my arrangement here and arrange these down and trim them off where need be. I'm going to trim carefully so that I can use both pieces and they look normal. And I'm trying to combine the greens so I've got lights and darks together. I mean, some green goes well with purple, but these don't really. I'm just going to take little bits of glue and glue all these leaves down. Pretty simple procedure. And if I spill any over, it's okay because that glue dries clear. And you can take those leaves and you can bend them to how you want them. You just want to be careful you don't accidentally tear them. Now, if you had a solid colored paper, they might work out a little bit better, but once you cut these out, for me, they're too delicate to try and color in the sides. It's just too much work. Can't do it. And I'm going to go ahead and add another one here. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to add a little bit more. I think I'm going to end up adding that other piece of ivy as well. Nope, better make sure everything's dry before I start moving things around. Yeah, we'll go ahead and add that other piece of ivy, and it's okay if it comes up over his foot. I'm going to add this one more piece right here. So you see, you can just take a few of them and just trim them out and use multiple parts to fill in your space. So now I've got all my foliage down. I need to decide on a sentiment, and I'm going to put the sentiment right across there, right across the leaves. And I am, well, you guys know how I am about sentiments, so I'm kind of looking through my pre-made sentiment strips that I generally like to use the Tim Holtz, just because they're easy and a lot of them have things to say that are interesting to me. So I'm going to look through these and try and find one that fits with the picture. Not physically fits, but the wording. And there's some interesting words in here. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to go with this one here. And I do like to add a little extra glue, especially since I'm gluing that over all that bumpity foliage. And there we go. We carry the heavens with us. I like it. It works for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and get out some of this confetti from Honeybee Stamps, and it's kind of an opal-y color, and I'm going to lay confetti in random places here in the leaves, trying to pull those two colors together still. Desperate to make this work. I'm sure you understand. So I'm getting most of them just down in the foliage part, as if there's little something in the darkness peeking through. grab and put one in this empty space right here. And then I'm gonna do just here and there a couple little tiny ones. So these come in three or four sizes. I'm gonna put the medium-sized ones. I'm looking for a small one. And yeah, I end up putting a medium there. But that's it. There's your card. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing and leave a comment in the comment section below. I'm always happy to answer any questions. I hope you have a wonderful, amazing, terrific day. Bye-bye.